Welcome to Kitchen Table Conversations, a series of short and shareable conversation starters for those of us who have or love and support people with a complicated and beautiful brain. Here's your host, Angela Geddes.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Kitchen Table Conversations. This is a busier than average month because we are going to be posting 4 separate podcasts, one for every week, because we are working a little harder towards spreading really important information around fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. But more importantly, we really want to broaden our understanding and our audience to be more inclusive of other conditions that are directly linked to prenatal alcohol and other substance exposures. So today's podcast is going to circle around prenatal health and why it matters, and breaking some of the myths that we commonly associate with FASD. So once again, thanks so much for tuning in. We're really excited about the opportunities that present themselves in the month of September to kind of, share more information and again, as I was saying, broaden the audience a little bit. That being said, if you're at all interested or intrigued or inspired by what you hear in these podcasts, I encourage you to share them because a lot of the work that we do in the area of prevention and prenatal health and prenatal alcohol exposure, it seems to go to the same places. And as I mentioned during our last podcast, our prevention efforts, no matter how good they are, no matter how innovative and creative they have been so far, they're not working. People are drinking more and more during pregnancies. And although most people know not to drink, a large amounts, or certainly not to get inebriated during their pregnancy, most, if not everyone that I speak to, do not consider those early weeks and the impacts that do happen even prior to the pregnancy being confirmed. And there's just so many people who are so surprised to hear that those early weeks really matter. And I also think that when we use the term fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, most people assume that that's a severe condition that is noticeable and obvious given facial features or very blatant disabilities that people can't miss. And most people kind of assume that fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is a condition that affects those people or other people, the ones struggling with addiction or in extreme cases, severe mental health conditions. And I think that's one of the biggest myths that we need to bust. The truth is, alcohol can affect any pregnancy. It does affect pregnancies in all of our circles, regardless of who we are, our backgrounds, or our lifestyles. Small amounts of alcohol, even when consumed occasionally, can disrupt fetal development in ways that sometimes last a lifetime. And it is a spectrum of disorders, but anybody who qualifies for a fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is struggling significantly with impaired abilities in at least 3 out of 10 brain domains that are assessed. So this is a comprehensive assessment, and I've been doing this work for a long time, and I've never seen anyone who's just been affected in 3 brain domains. But again, we got to talk about the direct link between alcohol and depression, alcohol and anxiety, alcohol and ADHD symptoms, alcohol and other learning and social difficulties, and some physical health conditions that are directly linked to prenatal health and prenatal alcohol exposure. Yet I still encounter disbelief. I hear, but if there was only a couple of drinks, I think the baby would be fine. I mean, I had a couple of drinks when I was pregnant and my child is fine. Or my doctor said an occasional glass of wine is okay. My doctor said a daily glass of wine would be okay. My doctor suggested that I have wine to help with the childbirth process. These messages are not only misleading, they are dangerous. I had a psychologist, in fact, talk to a family and disregard their concerns about prenatal alcohol exposure, which had been confirmed, and some serious behavioral and emotional challenges and learning difficulties that they were experiencing within their home and at school. And the psychologist said it can't be FASD. If that was the case, everybody in the 70s would have it. So again, I had another doctor say it can't be FASD. This child's too big. They don't meet the growth criteria, which the growth criteria has been taken out of the new Canadian guidelines for diagnosis for that exact reason. The alcohol impacts all of the individuals quite differently. There are obviously some commonalities that make it so that we can identify and diagnose the direct links that are related to alcohol and other substance exposures. But, it really depends on how much alcohol is being consumed at any particular time, what's developing at any particular time, and different parts of the brain and body are developing at different times throughout the pregnancy. So it really is quite variant. And I know that there are a lot of people who are quite athletic, but their anger and impulsivity is what prevents them from excelling at competitive sports, for example. So again, beyond alcohol, there is a bigger picture to consider here. So while alcohol is a leading cause of developmental and mental health challenges, it's not the only factor. Other substances, poor nutrition, and environmental stressors can also play a role. Adverse childhood experiences, we know, directly impact later in life health outcomes of the individuals. But we do know for certain that alcohol remains unique because it's everywhere. It's in all types of celebrations, in casual get-togethers, and it's often seen as quite harmless. This misconception has real consequences. It leads to stigma and misplaced blame, particularly on parents. I see parents every day in my practice who are doing everything right. Picture me saying the word right in air quotes, because what is right? But we do see parents advocating for their kids, adjusting their parenting strategies, staying up all night, reading so many different parenting books and articles, attending group sessions, and seeking mental health supports and services, and working tirelessly to help their child succeed. And yet they're still judged, they're still misunderstood, and sometimes outright blamed for things that are beyond their control. And just personally too, no matter how much work we've done in terms of reducing stigma and not being judgmental, when you are a caregiver and your efforts are going, they're just not leading to the kind of outcomes that you're hoping for, your children continue to struggle. That hurts. That hurts our hearts in ways that are quite profound. So no matter what the rest of the world says, when our children are, really dysregulated and really becoming quite intense and sometimes even dangerous within our home, that's hard to make sense of. And it's hard to live with as a caregiver who's given it your all, right? So we need to do more in terms of changing the conversation. And that's why we need to bring some of these conversations home to our own kitchen tables. We need to normalize talking about prenatal health before, during, and after pregnancy. We need to talk about breastfeeding and the risks associated with alcohol use at that time too, because it's not a good idea to breastfeed when we're drinking alcohol. And if you do that, there are some guidelines around safest ways to do that. But we do need to understand that there's no safe time, type, or amount of alcohol to consume during a pregnancy. And that does mean at the time of conception and even prior to conception, alcohol habits linger in our bodies and impact cell developments. And when you really think about it, it makes sense that our eggs and our sperm will be impacted by our nutritional and our beverage choices at the time of conception. Again, if this conversation resonates with you, please check out the updated public service announcements that we've created for this year's Mental Health and FASD Awareness Month. We have brand new 30-second and 60-second PSAs available online, perfect for sharing, and feel free to ask your radio to play them to your local radio stations. Let's make sure that everyone has access to this accurate, life-changing information, because when we do know better, we can do better. So thanks so much for listening to Kitchen Table Conversations. I'm Angela, and I'll see you next time as we dive into some of the hidden risks that you might not know about and why early awareness is so very important. With many thanks, Angela.